She lost her parents in one night, and years later, she fell for the man responsible for their death. Welcome to Drama Uncovered. Today, we bring you another emotional story. This story begins with a young girl named Ari. Ari lost her parents in a tragic road accident. All of her relatives begin arguing among themselves, each insisting that Ari should come live with them. Everyone keeps saying that she will stay with them, but in truth, none of them are willing to take responsibility. What they really want is her wealth and the property left behind by her parents. In the end, Ari is forced to go with her grandfather. Her grandfather looks at her coldly and pushes her aside without any concern. At that moment, a girl steps forward and crushes the flowers in Ari's hands under her feet. That girl is Hannah, the daughter of her grandfather. Hannah's mother quickly pulls her away, leaving Ari standing there all alone. Ari slowly bends down, gathers the crushed flowers, and begins crying loudly while remembering her parents. Just then, arrives, gently lifts Ari into his arms, and takes her away from there. The story then jumps ahead by 20 years. Ari is now seen fighting a group of men. She defeats all of them and demands that they return her belongings. Suddenly, one of the men attacks her with a knife and cuts her neck. Even after being injured, Ari fights back and overpowers him as well. After the fight, she begins to feel a sharp pain in her chest. Ari leaves the place and returns to a hotel. At the same time, is also there. Ari and bump into each other. Is drunk and unable to control himself properly. In that moment, they come dangerously close to each other. Does not realize that it is Ari because she is wearing a mask. The next morning, Ari wakes up and is shocked to see herself in that condition. She quickly gathers her clothes and runs away without wasting any time. When she reaches home, she tries to go inside, but there are many guards standing around. So, she decides to enter by climbing over the wall instead. Ari is just about to step inside when she suddenly notices standing below. She assumes it is only a simple wall, but the moment she sees him there, she loses her balance and slips. Immediately catches her and begins pulling her inside the house without hesitation. Ari screams loudly, calling out for someone to save her from this crazy man, but he refuses to let go of her. Takes her straight into the room and angrily demands, "Where were you last night, Ari?" She quickly answers that she was at a party with her friends and insists, "I'm telling you the truth." Ari gently holds his hand and says, "I won't be late again. Please forgive me this once," and tries to walk away. Stops her again and asks, "What is that mark on your neck?" Ari avoids the question and replies, "It's nothing." Yuno's expression turns serious as he says, "Tell me the truth. If you don't, I won't let you leave this house." Ari becomes frustrated and pushes him away, saying, "It's just a small mark. Why does it matter so much to you? Even if something happens to me, why should you care?" Responds angrily, "You are not leaving the house today." They both glare at each other intensely. Then walks out and shuts the door to her room. Outside, he asks his manager, "Did you find the girl from last night?" Yoonjun replies, "No, there is still no trace of her." Says firmly, "Find her as soon as possible." Meanwhile, Yoonjun tries to recreate the situation using a mannequin and mutters, "How am I supposed to find her like this? What kind of things does this boss even do?" Inside the room, Ari angrily sketches something and hits the photo, saying, "Who does that crazy man think he is?" Just then, walks in and asks, "What are you doing?" Ari quickly stands up and says, "Nothing. I was just drawing." She walks up to him, hugs him, and says softly, "Please let me go." Notices something written on his photo. Ari quickly grabs a pen and pretends to admire it, saying that he looks very handsome. Ari then asks, "Is that all right?" Replies, "All right, you can go out for a while," and begins to walk away. Ari quickly steps closer to him and asks, "Can I stay out tonight?" Notices how close she is and pauses briefly. Then he responds, "No, you need to be back home by evening." Ari nods and says, "Okay, fine." After that, both of them head out. Once outside, Ari puts her mask back on and instructs her men, "Bring that person to me as soon as possible." They immediately leave. Meanwhile, Yoonjun approaches and says, "Boss, this is the place where that girl lives." Looks at it and replies, "All right, you go ahead. That girl will help me today." Ari is sitting comfortably, eating some fruit. Just then, arrives and starts walking inside. As he enters, he notices that no one is there. However, Ari sees him from behind a curtain and wonders, what is he doing here? Notices the mask, remembers it, and begins carefully searching the room. Ari quietly manages to escape. When finds nothing, he leaves the place. Ari then steps out and says, "Why did he come here? Did he figure anything out about me?" She becomes anxious and thinks, what is going to happen now? After that, she returns home. That night, Ari mutters to herself, "I'm late again today. If that crazy man sees me like this, he definitely won't let me go out again." She quietly sneaks back inside. The next day, Ari notices someone waiting. She goes downstairs to check and sees Mina, Yuno's former girlfriend who left him 5 years ago and moved to the US. Eri looks at her and asks, "Why are you here?" Mina lets out a soft laugh, then takes a seat and says, "I came here to meet Yuno. After all, I'm still his girlfriend." Hearing this, Eri becomes irritated and replies, "You're not his girlfriend anymore, so understand that clearly." Mina confidently responds, "I still love him, and I know he still has feelings for me too. By the way, I brought a gift for Yuno. Can you give it to him?" Eri takes the gift from her in annoyance and walks away. Eri notices that Yuno is taking a shower. She tries to check for the mark she had left on him earlier, but she cannot see it. Quickly, she places the gift down and hides behind a curtain. When Yuno comes out of the bathroom, Eri looks at him quietly. She keeps staring at him and softly says, "He really is handsome." Then she suddenly stops herself and thinks, "What am I even thinking?" Eri looks again, trying to confirm the mark, realizing that it was indeed Yuno. Yuno senses that someone is behind the curtain. He walks toward it and suddenly pulls it aside. Seeing Eri, he asks, "What are you doing here?" Eri is left speechless and slowly steps backward. She slips and falls onto Yuno, and they accidentally kiss. Yuno is shocked by what just happened. He quickly pushes her away and says, "You crazy girl." Eri stands up, confused and embarrassed, and then notices the mark. Yuno asks again, "What were you doing here? Why were you hiding behind the curtain?" Eri nervously replies, "I was just looking." Yuno asks, "Looking at what?" Eri pauses and then awkwardly answers, "At you." Yuno reacts and says, "You really are crazy," and starts to leave. Eri grabs his hand and says, "Mina is here." Yuno looks confused and asks, "What are you saying?" Eri points toward the gift and says, "She brought this for you." Yuno then looks at the gift. Eri says with irritation, "That annoying girl is back again." Yuno lets out a small laugh. Eri continues, "I really don't like her at all." Yuno replies calmly, "I don't like her anymore either." Hearing this, Eri becomes happy and asks, "Are you serious? Promise me." Yuno gives his word. After that, Yuno goes to meet Mina. Mina becomes excited when she sees him and says, "I knew you would come to see me. You still love me, right?" Yuno responds coldly, "You're mistaken. I don't have any feelings for you anymore. Take your gift and don't come here again." He walks away. Mina becomes extremely angry after hearing this. The next day, Yoonjun is waiting and talking to someone nearby, saying how Eri beats everyone in college and dominates everyone, becoming like a boss figure. Eri arrives and asks, "Who are you calling a boss?" Yoonjun quickly changes his tone and says, "Nothing, just talking." Eri hands over her bag and says, "Take this, let's go quickly." Eri reaches college. Yoonjun opens the car door, but Eri has fallen asleep inside. He wakes her up. Eri gets out with her bag and starts walking. Yoonjun also begins to leave. Eri stops him and asks, "Can you drop me somewhere else?" Yoonjun refuses, saying, "The boss has told me not to." Eri leaves on her own. Yoonjun sighs in relief and says, "Thank goodness, let's leave quickly." Eri enters the classroom. Hannah notices her and asks, "What are you doing here?" One of Hannah's friends asks, "Do you know her?" Hannah replies, "Yes, very well." They all begin mocking Eri, but Eri responds firmly. She teaches them a lesson. Just as Eri is about to hit Hannah, the teacher arrives and stops her. Hannah starts crying and complains about Eri. After that, everyone takes their seats. Eri's friend asks why she didn't tell the teacher the truth about what happened earlier. Eri replies that it would not make any difference. The teacher scolds the class again for talking. Meanwhile, Hannah and her group continue chatting. Eri tells them to stay quiet. At that moment, a boy approaches and tries to confront Eri. She gets angry and is about to hit him, but stops herself. Eri walks out of the classroom. Lien follows her and calls her name. He wants to say something but hesitates. Finally, he says, "Go home safely." Eri nods and leaves. Later, Eri goes to Yuno and sits beside him. Yuno asks, "What is it this time? What do you want?" Eri replies, "I want to go to the college party." Yuno asks Yoonjun who will be attending. Yoonjun lists the names and mentions that Hannah will also be there, saying it might not be safe. Hearing this, Eri becomes upset. Yuno says, "You cannot go there. Hannah will be there, and you both will fight again." Eri calls him crazy and walks away angrily. She goes to her room and says, "This crazy man doesn't let me go anywhere. He always does whatever he wants. I feel like hitting him." Then she decides firmly, "I will go anyway, no matter what he says." Eri looks at her dress and prepares for the party. The next day, Hannah arrives at the party wearing a beautiful outfit. Her friend compliments her, saying she looks very pretty. Hannah becomes happy hearing this. Just then, a luxury car arrives. Everyone assumes Yuno has come, but instead, Eri steps out confidently. Everyone is shocked to see Eri. She confidently walks toward the entrance. Hannah looks at her and asks, "You came here too?" Eri replies calmly, "This isn't just your party. Anyone can come here." Lien walks over and holds Eri's hand. Eri says, "Let's go inside. There's no point standing here with them." The two of them go inside together. Seeing this, Hannah becomes furious. Inside the party, while everyone is enjoying themselves, Ari and Hannah once again begin arguing with each other. Meanwhile, Yuno is in the car and asks, "Where's Ari today? She didn't call me even once, when she usually calls many times." Yunjun replies, "I think she might have gone to the party." Yuno immediately says, "The party must have just started. Let's go." He heads there right away. At the party, Ari and Hannah continue trying to insult each other, and everyone around them watches closely. Yuno calls Ari and asks, "Where are you?" Ari lies confidently, saying, "I'm at home." Moments later, Yuno arrives at the party, already aware that Ari is there. Seeing him, Ari quickly hides and wonders what he is doing here. Hannah notices Yuno and greets him, trying to get closer. As she reaches out to touch him, Yuno stops her and says firmly, "Stay away. How dare you trouble Ari?" He signals his guards to take Hannah away. Hannah shouts that Ari is also there. Yuno then goes looking for Ari and calls out to her. Ari looks at him, while Yuno keeps his eyes fixed on her. Ari smiles slightly and walks toward him. Yuno removes his coat, places it over her shoulders, and asks, "What are you doing here?" Ari replies, "I wanted to come, but you refused, so I didn't tell you and came anyway." In front of everyone, Yuno lifts Ari into his arms and carries her outside. Inside the car, Yuno is clearly upset with her, while Ari stays silent. Meanwhile, Lian messages Ari, and they begin chatting. When Yuno notices this, he becomes irritated and takes her phone away. Ari asks him to return it, but he refuses. Yuno says, "Why did you come here when I clearly told you not to? What if something had happened to you?" Ari replies, "How many times do I have to explain this to you?" After a moment, Yuno calms himself and says, "Fine, but from now on, you will not go anywhere like this alone. If you want to go somewhere, tell me, and I'll come with you." Ari agrees happily and hugs him. Soon, she falls asleep, resting her head on his shoulder. When they reach home, Yuno carries her inside, gently places her on the bed, and covers her with a blanket. As he is about to leave, Ari grabs his hand and says, "Don't go." Yuno sits beside her and softly says, "I'm not going anywhere. I'll always stay with you." He remembers Mina's words saying that Ari would never love him. Then he recalls Ari talking to Lian. Looking at her, he says quietly, "I like you so much. I can't stand seeing you with anyone else." Then he leans forward and kisses her. The next day at college, Ari notices a couple of boys misbehaving. She steps in and teaches them a lesson. One of the boys tries to hit her, but Lian steps in between and gets hurt instead. The boys run away in fear. Lian asks, "Are you okay?" Ari says, "I'm fine. You're the one who got hurt." She immediately takes him to the hospital. Yunjun informs Yuno that Ari got into a fight and someone was injured. Hearing this, Yuno rushes there without delay. Ari asks Lian, "Does it hurt a lot?" Lian replies, "No, I'm okay." Ari says, "You shouldn't have stepped in." Lian answers, "How could I just stand there and let you get hurt?" Ari looks at him and asks, "What do you mean?" Lian gathers courage and says, "I like you a lot." Ari is shocked hearing this. Yuno suddenly steps in and says, "But she doesn't like you." He walks to Ari, grabs her hand, and pulls her toward himself. Lian insists, "I want to hear it from her." Yuno responds, "I already told you." Then he takes Ari away with him. Lian becomes angry and follows them. Ari stops Yuno and says, "What are you doing?" Yuno asks angrily, "Do you like him?" Ari replies, "I can think about it." Yuno gets furious, pushes her against the wall, and says, "You don't need to think about anything." Ari asks, "Why not?" At that moment, Lian calls out to her again. Ari says, "Move, let me go." Yuno looks at Lian with anger and then suddenly kisses Ari in front of him. Lian is left stunned. Ari then tells Yuno, "Hannah called me. She wants to return some of my father's belongings." At first, Yuno refuses, but when Ari insists, he agrees and says, "Fine, but I'm coming with you." They reach outside Hannah's house. Ari says, "I'll go inside, you stay here." Yuno replies, "Okay, but be careful." Ari nods and goes inside. Yunjun feels something is wrong. Yuno connects his device and starts listening to what is happening inside. Ari goes in and sits down. A man sitting there starts behaving inappropriately with her. Ari immediately reacts and beats him up. Her grandfather says, "What are you doing? Go and bring her things." Ari's grandmother takes her to her room. Meanwhile, her grandfather scolds the man and tells him he needs to handle her properly. Hannah then gives Ari a box. Ari opens it and finds nothing inside except a piece of paper. She becomes angry and asks, "Where are my belongings?" Suddenly, Ari pretends to faint. Hannah's mother rushes downstairs to call the man. Meanwhile, Hannah starts revealing everything she had done to Ari. At that moment, Ari stands up and says, "Now you won't get away with this," and shows that she recorded everything. Hannah becomes terrified and tells her mother to call someone to get rid of her. Ari confidently replies, "Do you really think you can do that?" She then calls Yuno inside. Yuno enters. Ari feels relieved and goes to him with the box, saying, "It's done." Yuno asks, "Are you okay?" Eri replies, "Yes, but what was that man trying to do?" Yuno orders his men to hand that man over to the police. Then both of them leave. Eri says, "I finally got my box back," while Yuno still looks concerned. They leave together. Later, Mina arrives at Yuno's house. Eri gets upset seeing her and tries to walk away. Yuno holds her hand and stops her. Looking at Mina, he says, "Eri and I are together now. I'm going to marry her." Mina refuses to accept it and says, "You can't do this." Yuno's guards hold her back. Yuno says firmly that no one will trouble her anymore and tells the guards to take her away. He then takes Eri to the room. Eri smiles and says, "Even a crazy person can be this sweet." Yuno asks, "Why do you keep calling me crazy?" Eri replies, "Because you are, and I like it." Yuno smiles and says, "If I'm crazy, then you are too." Eri quickly says, "No, I'm not." Yuno insists, "Yes, you are." Eri lightly hits him and says, "Only you are crazy, not me." Just then, Yoonjun arrives and says there is something important. Yuno leaves with him. Eri goes to Mina and tells the guard to take her away. Mina laughs and says, "Go ahead, the person you love is the reason your father died." Eri is shocked and refuses to believe it, then asks them to take her away. Eri goes to her room and opens the box left by her father. She realizes that what Mina said is true. That night, Yuno comes into her room. Eri shows him the paper and asks, "Is this true?" Yuno, with tears in his eyes, says, "Yes." He explains, "Your father died because of me. That day, people came to kill me. One of them tried to stab me, but your father stepped in and got stabbed instead." Yuno continues, "Your father told me not to tell you the truth. He wanted you to believe it was an accident." Yuno breaks down while saying all this. Eri says coldly, "Leave." Yuno walks out silently. Eri breaks down, remembering all the moments they shared together. She cries and says, "How could you do this to me?" Yuno calls Yoonjun and says, "I'm leaving. Give everything to Eri." He ends the call. Later, Yoonjun comes to Eri. Eri asks, "Why are you here?" Yoonjun replies, "The boss has left everything for you." He continues, "He loves you deeply. What happened that day was an accident. It wasn't his fault." Yoonjun gives her a diary and says, "He has written everything about you in this, what you like, what you dislike. He has cared for you all these years." Eri reads the diary and starts crying. Realizing everything, she says, "I need to go to him." Yoonjun becomes happy. Yuno returns to the old house where he used to live with Eri. He stands there, missing her, and is about to go inside when Eri calls out to him from behind. Yuno turns and asks, "You came?" Eri says, "How could you leave me alone? Don't you love me? I love you, and I want to stay with you forever." Yuno becomes emotional and hugs her, saying, "I love you too." Eri then says, "I have something to tell you, something important." Yuno asks, "What is it?" Eri looks at him and says, "I was the masked girl, and I'm pregnant." Yuno becomes extremely happy and says, "Now my family is complete. From now on, we will always be together." He asks her, "Will you marry me?" Eri smiles and says yes. They hug each other and kiss. This beautiful story ends on a happy note. Friends, if you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like the